How's it going, Critter Family? I hope you all are doing well. Today we're going to be going over a video of what tools I use and don't use. Collars, harnesses, leashes, lions, tigers, and bears, oh my. All these different types of products out there that I recommend and don't recommend. I made a video like this way back when, on the beginning of my channel, and when I first started my channel, and somebody requested that I do an updated one because my opinions have changed. And so I thought, absolutely, we can do that. So if you're ready for that, then let's get started. So first, we're just here on Google Images just to show you. I looked at flat buckle collar. So when I'm talking about a flat buckle collar, this is pretty much what I imagine is your pretty traditional, regular flat buckle collar. They can have a buckle, hence the name flat buckle collar. It can have a snap. In this case, this is a neoprene, and this is a nylon. We have another nylon one. This has another snap. So any of these here are regular flat buckle collars. I'm not so sure about the purpose of this O-ring here, but anyway, but these are the types of collars that I would use. There's some that are leather, some that are thin, some that are thicker, some that are just pretty simple, and some that are, branded with some fancy gear and whatnot on it and hardware. So when I'm looking at a collar for a dog, usually I go 1 inch width minimum. The smallest I'll go is 1 inch width. Maybe for like a Chihuahua, I can go a little bit smaller, or something, a Shih Tzu or something really small. I can go a little bit smaller, but really I like to go 1 inch and above. 2 inches is probably about as big as I want for any average dog. I don't need to take up all the real estate space that's on their neck that some people like to do with multiple collars, and that's not for me. But our dogs are not a giraffe, and just because they have that neck space doesn't mean we need to use it up. So I have a bunch of collars that Adonis used that are very similar to these. I have a black leather one like this. I have a black collar that looks just like this. I have there's all sorts of different types of flat buckle collars you can have out there. So we're looking at these military type tactical dog collars. This one looks to be, I can't tell if it's padded in the background or not. It looks like it may or may not be, but if it's not padded, then I would add a little bit of fleece, and I would sew some padding in there and another section of fleece, and I would either make it Velcro around the inside of the collar there that lines the inside of the collar, so that way the soft part is towards the dog's neck. I would do that especially for a dog with very short hair. Adonis, even with his double coat, I still wanted to make sure he was comfortable, because those edges, they can get through the coat and they can rub on the skin. I don't want anyone getting any red raw spots. But I do like these collars. I think, if you want to go for the look, I think it's great. Pretty simple on and off, just the regular buckle there. But this would not be an everyday collar for me. It would be like a working collar, or if you want to be fancy. Another type of collar out there that I do use is the martingale. So what we see here is called a martingale. This looks to be about 1 inch thick, and we have this is a cloth martingale. There's a difference between the cloth martingale and a chain martingale, which I'll show you in just a moment. We'll actually look it up here. So you see the cloth martingale. This is actually, I have a collar very much just like this, but it's orange. I like it because it has a locking mechanism for the snap, and it's a cloth martingale. So the way the martingale works is it's nice and loose when the dog is not pulling. It's a quick release. It has this material where if your dog tries to back out of the collar, then it tightens up and they can't get their head through it. This can be good for a dog who backs out of their collar, or a dog who might be a flight risk. And if that is, the case, then I would have a martingale and also a second harness, second attachment point. So like a leash on a martingale and a leash on a harness, or a double-ended, clip-ended leash. A leash that has a clip at either end. And I would have a second point on another contact point for the dog, so they're not likely to escape. But I like this because it's cloth. I don't like the chain. Adonis was kind of when he would have his double coat, his neck was a lot thicker. And so when he blew his coat out and then his neck was a lot thinner, he would slip out of a fixed collar. So I like to have this, and it's easily adjustable. This is a chain martingale. Does the same thing. It has a snap, whereas same as this one. Whereas these ones don't. This one just slides over the dog's head. But but this one has the ability to walk your dog on a regular collar, or it has the chain mechanic option as well. So it does the same thing, but a lot of times people will use these as training collars, and they pop their dog with it. It's a quick release, a pop and release. That's not what these were really made for, not to my knowledge, but there's a lot of misinformed people out there. Some people, some trainers will, believe it or not, will say that this was made to sound like a growl, so that the clicky sound of the chain, going up and down on this or a choke chain is supposed to sound like a growl to a dog. So I don't think dogs really believe that, but okay. So yeah, we have different chains. I like just a regular cloth martingale. I think they're a great tool. A lot of times they were started for the greyhound. This is a greyhound collar. 2-inch wide, because greyhounds have very long, thick necks and very tiny bicycle seat type heads, and so that's where this collar was designed for, was that way they can, you don't have a fixed collar that's going to slide off their head. Okay, so here we have some slip collars. This is you could call it a choke collar, you could call it a slip collar. Do we have a choke chain in here? So the first one we're going to look at is what's called a choke chain. They call it a cinch chain, a slip chain, a gentle cinch chain. Yeah, baloney. It's a choke chain. It chokes your dog if your dog pulls on it. This one is like a show ring choke chain. This does as it implies. Your dog will choke on it. It chokes your dog. So some people will call these like dominant dog collars. There's leather ones. These are correction type collars, much like a slip lead. The slip collar does the same thing. It tightens and then it loosens, and this is meant to be like a correction for your dog. You can have some that are minimally aversive, so like this one is nice and wide. This might be used for, I don't know, maybe sport dog or something. This one is like a limited slip chain, so again it might be kind of used the same way as a martingale. But these ones are not quite as bad as something like this, where it can literally just like choke your dog and hang your dog. And this is a rounded cord that's going to be a lot more comfortable for your dog than something flat like this. I do have something nice and padded like this collar here that is, it's not from Leerburg, but it's a limited slip collar that I would just throw on Adonis if we were in a hurry. We needed to get out somewhere. I needed to go from the apartment to the car, and he knows he doesn't pull, because I trained him not to pull in any collar, not using the other tools like prong collars and choke chains and all that. So he's fine in this. He's not hurting himself. Again, I make sure it's nice and wide, so nice wide flat collar. I'm more okay with this, so long as you're not trying to pop and choke your dog and correct your dog with it. If we're just getting from A to B, I would much rather use one of these than a slip lead, because there's, again, a lot more surface area. This is another choke collar. Dominant dog collar. So this is just a bunch of baloney. It's just a total gimmick. It's a leather choke collar, and the fact that they call it dominant dog collar shows they're an idiot, because they think they label every dog as dominant, and dominance is a behavioral. Dominance is in the moment. It's not a behavioral trait. You don't have a dominant dog. You don't have a dominant dog. Your dog is acting dominant in a moment, and other animals can act dominant over them in that moment. So here we have a prong collar. I believe this is a Hermspringer. So this is a Hermspringer. Apparently the best of the best if you go with this company. I don't know. I don't care. I don't use it. This is a metal prong collar. This is something I don't use. They have some where they have these little rubber stoppers that you put on the points of them. I don't know why. If you're going to be using it, it says adjustable pinch choke correction collar. Why do you want to use any of those descriptions of a collar on your dog? I don't know. If you have to have these little rubber stoppers, or they have covers for them, if you have to hide the way your prong collar looks, then why even use one? So here we have these cute fancy little prong collar covers. Oh yeah, so people can't see that my dog is actually has a prong collar, and we have to hide them. If you have to hide it, then why do you even bother using one? Just don't use one. I mean, this is a perfectly good martingale collar. You don't need it, but people are going to do what they're going to do. Another collar out there that I do not use is the Star Mark collar. I wonder why they call it the Star Mark. Maybe it's just a last name, or it's because it leaves a mark of a star on your neck. I don't know what that means. Maybe 5-point star, whatever. But these are basically like plastic prong collars, and they're plastic edges that I think are actually sharper than... It looks blunt, but those feel pretty sharp when they're actually on your neck. And I know that firsthand because I've used them on my neck before. These big points here. So these are another tool that I do not recommend, that I do not use. Head halters are another tool that I no longer use, that I may or may not have used to use in the past, or I may have recommended them in the past, but I don't like to use head halters, period. They give your dog the ability to pant and drink and take treats, but it's still just too much of a danger. They press on the sensitive area of the nose by the eyes. They go high behind the head, as we see in this dog here as an example. It goes high behind the head, and there's a lot of nerve endings there. There's a bunch of different types and styles of head halters. This is a gentle leader. This looks like to be a halty or a barkless or whatever. So I don't know if this is an anti-bark collar, but that just doesn't look good. Beautiful dog here. Looks like a Rhodesian Ridgeback, but you have this weight of this leash hanging here, so this one looks like it hooks in the back. We got leather ones. We've got, all sorts of weird contraptions. I have seen this before. I think I used this at one point on a dog before that was very, very powerful, and it didn't help. If anything, it made it worse, so go figure. This is a collar that goes around the dog's neck, and then this is a loop that goes over the dog's nose. So it might be for dogs with a shorter muzzle, and then this hooks in the back where your leash goes. I'm just not a fan of let's see. This looks like an interesting contraption that, again, collar, has a loop that goes over the nose, and then your collar hooks on the back of it. I just don't think, that these are necessary. It takes time to condition it to your dog, to get your dog used to it. It can be too dangerous, too much of a risk that your dog, if you accidentally trip or your dog runs and trips, that they can break their neck, they can injure themselves, they can break a jaw, they can lose an eye or something. I mean, I just don't think that head halters are, necessary or very helpful for dogs. I would much rather use a regular harness or just use a regular collar. So moving on to harnesses. There's many different types of harnesses out there. This one here, this is a harness I used to use that I no longer do because of the design of it. It's a really good harness. I got one from, it wasn't from Julie's Canine, but I got it from something in Dillon. Sorry, I'm not remembering the name, but it's another brand. But it looks exactly like this. I got it because it has the little patches on the side. But this here can be really restrictive. Do they have it on a dog? Aha. This can be really restrictive of the shoulder blades because the dog's shoulder blades go all the way up over here, back here, and so this can be restrictive of the dog. They can't really walk very well. It can also very, very easily dig into their collarbone and their esophagus, and they can't, and their trachea, and they can't breathe very well. So that's why, I don't like this type of harness that is designed this way. If it had a strap going down the middle, and if this strap were to go more this way at an angle and allow freedom of the shoulders, then I'd be all for it. But there's plenty of other harnesses out there that do that for you. Another one that I would look out for is something like this. I used to use one of these for Adonis in this exact color because there's not a lot of surface area. I do like it has the strap there, so the little legs would go one in there, one in here, and then his head goes through here, and then his body goes through there, or vice versa. And then it clips in the back. Great, love it. But for me, I'm just not a fan of the limited surface area. I want more padding than just this little strap here in the chest. It can, if your dog especially really pulls, it can be uncomfortable. Your dog can easily pull out of this and slip out of it through the back. So that's something to keep an eye out for. But a harness I had for Adonis looked very similar. This is the type of harness I had for Adonis, called the Rabbit Goo. I like it because it had, if we look at this dog, it had the two straps. It was actually orange just like this, and I still have it. It has the two straps on either end, and then it also had a third strap around the neck. So I really liked this design because if you have a dog that's nervous about having something being slid over their head, like a fixed harness, like a lot of them come, like this one doesn't have anything in the middle. You just slip it over the head, or something like this, made by Kong. You may just slip it over the head. Adonis was okay with it. He would tolerate it, but, and I could teach him to be more comfortable with it. But instead of just teaching him to tolerate it, why not just cut out the middleman and make it easier for him, where I can unclip it, put it around his neck, he was fine, and then I can clip his little underarm. So it had a third clip around it. I believe the one by Rabbit Goo did, but this one. There's a third clip on this side over here that had a little lock on it as well. So just the little extra bit goes a long way. It has a front clip as well if you need one. One of the harnesses that I do not recommend is the Easy Walk. For me, I don't like the design of it because, again, it limits the shoulders. You can see this dog's shoulder blade goes all the way over here, and so this is restrictive. It can go into the collarbone. It can, much like this harness, this looks like it's not made for a dachshund, but like a guinea pig, but right there in the throat, not very good for the dog. This one is, it works by twisting the dog around. It also works by restricting their shoulder movement, so they can't get their full range of motion with their arms. And so it just kind of holds them back. So I'm not a fan of those types of collars. This looks like another nice collar, looks like a leather collar. And it's a little bit high up. I would worry if the dog is pulling a lot. It can also choke them, very much like this kind of collar. I do like it's padded. It looks very, very nice. And you can teach a dog not to pull and something like this. But these are just little things that I look for. Like this one looks like it could be an X or a Y shaped harness. It's by Wilder brand, or it's by Wilder Dog. I do like the company Wilder Dog. As far as I know, they have good quality products. Of course, none of this is an ad placement for anybody. Nobody knows I exist. But I do like that it's nice and, deep. It's kind of like that V cut or that U cut in the t-shirt neck. So that way it's not just straight and flat and it doesn't, dig into the neck. So these are all harnesses that I think are great. And this one I wouldn't go with because, again, it's restricting of the shoulders. They have a sled dog harness, which I have for Adonis, which gives you the pull of draft. Everybody always says that, these other walk-in harnesses, these harnesses are made for sled dogs. Actually, no, they're not, because the pull of draft is much further back for a sled dog harness than it is in any kind of harness like this. So, but anyway, that's just me. Of course, you all know how I feel about e-collars and shock collars and all that nonsense. So any other corrective tool, of course, I don't use. But these are some of the tools that I do use. And I have a version of a lot of these, of each of what we've gone over. I have for Adonis. And that's all in storage now. So again, whenever I have my next pupper in the future, whenever that is, then it'll be all ready for hand-me-down. So thanks so much for watching. I hope this answered anybody's questions. If you have more questions, feel free to let me know. Let me know what you thought of this video, and if you got anything from it, say howdy do to your little critters. Say howdy do for me. Give them some kind of love and they appreciate. And until next time, practice peace, patience, and positivity.